Hi, everyone. Welcome to tonight's live stream. My name is Justine, and I'm a second-year medical student at Wake Forest School of Medicine. Tonight, we'll be hosting the live stream regarding secondary applications, so we're very glad you were able to join us right now. This year's medical school application cycle is already underway, which is an exciting time for applicants, but it can also be extremely anxiety-provoking and challenging. Too often, applicants receive misinformation from misleading sources. The application process is really already long and challenging enough as it is, and getting accurate and honest information shouldn't be a struggle. Before we begin our live stream Q&A session, I do want to briefly talk about YPI, which is otherwise known as the Young Physicians Initiative. Our organization is composed of motivated medical students who are interested in making a career in medicine more accessible and equitable. Here at YPI's Pre-Med portal, we achieve this mission by hosting town halls every few months with the help of gracious admissions deans from across the country. As the people who make admissions decisions, they'll be helping to filter out the fiction and instead provide facts and reliable information. In just a second, I'll be introducing our panel of medical school admissions faculty who will be answering both yours and our questions in a live Q&A. If at any point you have questions for our panelists, please post them in the comment section. Just a few pointers about questions. First, the shorter the better. The program won't let us display super long questions, so please keep them concise. And if you have more than one question, feel free to make multiple comments. You can ask as many as you like. And lastly, we usually receive more questions than we can answer. Therefore, we try to select questions that the most viewers will benefit from. So with that being said, if you have questions highly specific to your situation, please consider how you can rephrase them so they may be applicable to other viewers as well. Finally, we really appreciate your feedback, so please take some time to fill out our very brief survey. In the bottom right-hand corner during our live stream, and also at the end, you'll see a QR code populated. Please scan it and give us your feedback whenever you feel it's appropriate. Now to our panel. Tonight, we've had a few mishaps with technology, and so we were supposed to have two, but right now we just have Dr. Rosenbaum, who we are very, very lucky to have. He is the Associate Dean for MD Admissions and Financial Services at Wake Forest School of Medicine. Would you be able to share a few things about Wake?
Yeah, absolutely, Justine. And at first, I apologize that you all are stuck with just me. So we'll do the best we can. But yeah, I am the Associate Dean for Admissions here at Wake. If you're not familiar with Wake Forest, we're in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. It's not the biggest city, about 250,000, but our metro area is almost 800,000 people. And so our medical center, it's big. It's at 885 beds, level 1 trauma center, comprehensive cancer center. We do just about everything you can think of. And we draw folks from all over the region, from not only Western North Carolina, but Eastern Tennessee, Southwestern Virginia, et cetera. So we have a great variety of patients and cases for our students to see and learn from. I think just a couple things we're known for is our we've condensed the first 2 years of the curriculum into 18 months. So we get folks into that really clinical heavy phase earlier where they can start exploring and deciding on their specialties. We have a beautiful medical school education building downtown in an area that's called the Innovation Quarter, where it's these old tobacco buildings that have been turned into a much healthier purpose for educating medical students, PA students, nursing students, as well as a bunch of other tech startups, especially related to health and technology. So really exciting. We're like an hour from the mountains, 3 hours from the beach, and about an hour north of Charlotte, which is really exciting to note because we've just opened a new medical school campus down in Charlotte. So students who applied this year would have the opportunity to be one of the 40 or so who spend their third year in Charlotte if they want to. And then folks applying next year and the years after, we're going to be started. That's when the 4-year campus down in Charlotte will be up and running. So we'll have an additional 45 spots that folks can apply to at the Charlotte campus, in addition to our 145 here in Winston-Salem. And lastly, we must be a great medical school, because if it could make a semi-competent doctor out of me, class of 97, then it must be a great school.
That was good. That was good. Thank you for that. And just to round it out, we were supposed to have Dr. Wiley-Jacobo on tonight, but like I said earlier, due to technology issues, she is unable to join. So hopefully we'll be able to have her back in the future. So with that being said, we're going to transition into our Q&A session. So obviously it will just be me and Dr. Rosenbaum just kind of going through these. Feel free to send in your questions as well, and we'll be happy to answer them.
And Justine, I've been lucky enough to be on other panels with other deans. And so I'll try and keep that broader perspective in mind, in addition to just kind of the Wake Forest angle on things.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. All righty. So we can pull up our first question now. All righty, here we go. Should applicants repeat information already mentioned in the primary application?
Very, very good and practical question. For us, we explicitly state it. We say, well, these things are so important to us that we're asking them on the secondary that we don't want to confuse you and have you leave out, your good stuff from the personal statement or the experience list. So, and I'll admit it, here at Wake, I'm not sure how it is at other places. Think of the secondary application as your elevator pitch. So you wouldn't leave the best parts of the highlights of the plot twists in your movie that you were trying to pitch to the studio. I would think of it the same way. This is your elevator pitch in front of the admissions team. Maybe it's even just a few minutes. So I would say, when in doubt, don't leave out the good stuff just because you think, oh, I don't want to repeat it. I would expand on the highlights from your primary application.
Awesome. All righty. Thank you. Okay, next question. All righty. Any suggestions on how to make your secondary application stand out?
So, well, I got a lot of advice on this. You can just, stop me, Justine, if I go on too long. Let's see.
Okay.
So I would say the first piece of advice, and I think my other deans across the country would agree, is number one, before you start doing, even your personal statement of your primaries and then your secondaries, if you can stop and think, well, what's kind of like that elevator pitch again? What's my, this is going to sound cheesy, but what's my brand? What's my 1 or 2 sentence kind of summary of what I'm trying to get across, of like who I am, what I want them to know about me? So start with that. And then everything you do can kind of follow that, support that idea. So in your secondaries, start with that. And then when in doubt, fall back to supporting that kind of mission statement, maybe that you would want to get across about yourself. And then the second thing would be, I would say, show me, don't tell me. And you have to tell, in an essay format. But what I mean is, anyone can just say things, right? Anyone can say, I want to help people, or I love kids, or I'm really responsible. But if you can tell me one story, show me one example of that in action, then wow, number one, believe it. Number two, it was way more interesting to read than just somebody spouting off general kind of cliches. So I think those would be my 2 biggest pieces of advice. Tell stories. They're way more fun than boring essays and standard stuff. And it's just, it's proof in action.
That makes complete sense. That second part really resonates with me. I got the same advice. I was a reapplicant. So at first I was like, oh, I was a college athlete, so I learned discipline. I was respectful. And then I realized, no, tell the story of why.
Exactly.
Awesome.
It's just those real examples. Just 1 or 2 examples are going to paint are going to get across 1,000 words of text. Totally.
100%. Alrighty, next question. How quickly should applicants send back their secondary applications?
These are really good and very practical. So this is going to be such a political answer, but it's going to be, when you're ready to send it, that's when you should do it. And what I mean by that is, yes, there is a slight advantage to getting your secondaries in sooner, right? The sooner they're in, the sooner it might get looked at, the sooner that maybe you'll then get plucked out for an opportunity for an interview. But the most important part is getting plucked out, right? So if you submit garbage early, it's not going to be it's not going to be as likely to be selected. So the most important thing is take the time that you need to respond to the secondary application in a high quality manner, to really put some thought into it. And that's going to be far more important. That's going to be 90% of what gets you the interview. And maybe the 10% is when you sent it in. So don't cut and paste. Try not to recycle things. Again, I don't know what you put on your other secondaries at other places, but sometimes we can kind of tell when it's kind of mailed in, literally and figuratively, or cut and pasted, or you're just kind of, so just take that time, take a breath, and send it in when you have the time and to pay attention to detail, to put some real thought into it. And that's the most important aspect. Here at Wake, we're a truly rolling admissions process. So no matter when you send it in, we're going to look at you under the same criteria. So that doesn't matter. Literally, the only aspect, at least with us, is, okay, maybe if you were around since July, as opposed to sending it in November, all right, you've had a chance to be pulled out for some of those interview opportunities. And the later in the year, maybe a few less chances to get pulled out of the out of the pile.
Awesome. I remember I actually made a spreadsheet to keep track because I was so scared. I was like, oh no, because you can hear like people will be like, oh, you have 2 weeks to turn it around, and then like you're done. So it's so good to hear like, oh, maybe that's not actually true.
Yeah, I mean, you always balance everything, but quality over speed.
That's great to hear. Alrighty, next question. Should applicants answer every question, including those that are optional?
Here's another one where we say optional for a reason. So you literally do not have to. It's not one of those traps when my wife says, do you want to go to the mall with me? And I'm like, oh, what does she mean? Does she really mean I can decide or not? Is this a trap? But for us, it is truly optional in the most literal term. Don't use it, because we can tell when you use it to just try and, I'm going to squeeze in a few more facts about myself, I'm going to throw a few more things against the wall. It comes across. You can tell when you're just kind of trying to stuff the stat sheet, so to speak, as opposed to like, oh, this is different, and this is where I have a chance, or I need to provide you with this additional information. So no, it's not a game that you have to play. And in fact, it can kind of leave, if you don't do it artfully and you try to sneak, you think you're going to be slick and cram some more stuff in there, it can actually be a little bit of a turnoff.
That makes perfect sense.
And this is being recorded, so I'm a little worried my wife's going to be able to see what I just said. So that's against me.
Always got to throw a few jokes in there. Alrighty, next question, please. Where do you suggest students find more information about your institution or institutions in general in order to better answer secondaries?
So of course there's websites, of course there's Instagram, of things like that. But I'm going to give you a more useful answer, because again, it comes across so obviously. And again, if you're living in California, you've never been to Winston-Salem or have contact with Wake, understand. And you're going to use the website to gather information, but everyone else can do that too, and they can spout off the same things, and we see it every different version of that. But here's a hot tip for you all tuning into this, and this is the first time I've ever given this piece of advice. But if you can find someone, yes, you're in California, but if you can find somebody who did residency at Wake or was an alum or has some real experience here at our school or another school that you're targeting, wow, number one, you're going to get the real scoop. You're going to get the inside information about what the culture of that place is like, what they value. You're going to get hints as to, what did that person enjoy about the school? And then you're going to be able to use all that information in your answer. And I think a much more interesting way than just reading stuff off of a website. And then plus you're going to, by interacting with that person, you're going to get a sense, not just about how you're impressing us, but do you like what you saw and what you felt and what you heard from that person? Because you're evaluating us too. I know it doesn't feel like it, but hopefully you'll be in a position, not too far into whatever cycle you're applying. And I think it could be a real win-win for you.
That's very good advice. Very good. Yeah. I liked that one. Yeah, you definitely learn a lot more if you can talk to somebody who's there.
And it just shows that little bit of extra effort too. Not that we put y'all through so many hurdles over so many hurdles as it is, but just imagine, like, everyone can go look at the website, but if you're like, yeah, I sought out this person, I'm already thinking, oh wow, that's cool. They took that extra step. They're not just going through the motions, like everybody else. So you can really signal in a less obvious way, your sincerity and your interest and what kind of person you are, just by reaching out and connecting with folks and taking that extra effort.
Definitely shows you care a little bit more.
Hmm.
Alrighty, next question, please. Alrighty. When completing secondary applications, how important is it that the applicant's values match the school's mission statement?
Excellent question. So you always hear those things, be yourself. And, we ask you to play this crazy game, but I'd say definitely be true to yourself. And if it matches with with that institution's mission statement, it's going to come through. You're going to have that passion. You're going to have that energy. It's going to fall into place. Your answer is going to make sense. As opposed to if you're trying to fake it, it's going to come across. It's going to be stale. And so why even try to fake it? Why just be honest, be upfront. And sometimes even if you're like, mm, it's not a great fit as far as your mission statement. Maybe there's still an opportunity there to say, but here's what I could bring, and here's what I can learn. Just because your institution has a little bit of a different angle on this issue or in this mission than I dream about. But perhaps there's a way to even turn it where there's some benefit, and you're willing to grow, and you're willing to learn, and what you could also bring to that place. Because I'm certainly looking for folks. Winston-Salem is my home now, and I want folks who are going to make this place, this city, this institution better and more interesting than before they got here. So perhaps there's an opportunity there. But when in doubt, be true to yourself, and then see what happens as you answer those questions.
I like that change of perspective of, if I can learn and then add my own perspective to your.
Yeah, and I don't. We're always growing. And I think it would be a boring place if everybody thought the same, and felt like they had to act the same way or think the same way. So, yeah, just be honest, and then see how that works itself into your answers.
Without a doubt. Thank you. Alrighty, next question, please. What is your biggest advice overall for secondary applications? Should applicants pre-write?
So pre-write, is that like before you even know if you're going to get it, or the questions are out there. It's not very hard to find them. So even if you haven't gotten them, and again, as long as you're answering the correct question, I have no problem with you pre-writing and practicing. Again, you wouldn't want a physician who looked at your chart before you came in, who researched your condition before they came in. So I certainly don't have any issue with folks preparing and practicing and coming up with some drafts, just like you probably did for your personal statement. How cool is that if someone takes the time to put a few drafts together? Go ahead and have somebody read your secondary application, answers, just like you hopefully did for your personal statement. There's nothing wrong with pre-writing. I won't say you should, but I think it sounds like a really good idea.
Definitely, especially if you're applying to a bunch of schools, you could potentially get bombarded. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, help you manage that stress and that load. So yeah, helping prepare will help you be at your best, and not overwhelmed.
definitely. Alrighty, well, that's all the questions we have currently received. If anyone has any last-minute questions, feel free to send them in right now. With that being said, I think we can kind of transition into the closing. I think we just touched on it a bit about, I like to end it by saying, my biggest takeaway and then also your biggest takeaway. You definitely touched upon it a bit, but I think my biggest takeaway is that you've given some, information tonight that I definitely haven't heard from other, per se, admissions deans. And so I think it's great to have this perspective. I wish I would have had this information when I was going through the process, because I think it's so helpful.
Well, my biggest takeaway is the service you all are providing. Again, to make it equal and accessible. Not everyone has the same guidance and the same resources, or they've been away. And so this is really cool that you all are doing it. it's the best part of my job is interacting with you all and applicants. It's so much fun. And don't be afraid to keep asking questions, to reach out to your institution. Even if you've been gone for a few years, they're still willing to support you, whether it's with practice interviews or helping review your personal statements, putting those letters together. Take advantage of them, because they want to boast about how many of their students have gotten into medical school. And so yeah, use that resource. But the resource you provided tonight, even though it was me, I'm sorry about that, but still really cool that y'all offer this.
Of course, we're just really repping Wake Forest tonight. Well, thank you so much for all of your input. Super appreciated. I'm sure everyone listening does as well. So we are just transitioning right now to closing. So just a reminder that we do have the QR code to scan to give us feedback, which we would very much appreciate, because it helps us better the service for everybody else. And so when we do end this live stream, it's going to pop up really quickly. So if you guys aren't able to scan it right now, you will be at the end. And again, I really just want to say thank you to Dr. Rosenbaum and everyone who participated tonight. And I do want to give a special thanks to our YPI Pre-Med portal team for helping organize today's event, everyone behind the scenes, and also Dr. Haval Kelly for providing us with this streaming platform and all of YPI, really. And to all of our viewers, please share this live stream and any valuable information with your peers and institutions. And be sure to follow us on all of our social media. We do have a Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and we also have our website where we do post our previous live streams. So we touch upon all different aspects of the admissions process. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in tonight. Have a great rest of your night, and good luck throughout filling out your secondaries and the rest of your interview seasons that will hopefully come to you. Thank you, everyone.
To read them.
Sean, are you coming back?